700 WLW podcast. Catch Scott Sloan weekdays at 9:06 on 700 WLW.
I'll tell you what, there's a heck of a lightning show, light show this morning to the east about 6:30 this morning. It was amazing. And more to come. Well, you want to see it because the sun's up. I am Mr. Science. Hi, Scott Sloan, 700 WLW. Back at it again on this Thursday. Controversy brewing in Lakota. Yesterday, I did a segment. We did part of the show about school levies and the whole myth that if you pay more, you get more, and the results will be great as long as you keep paying the levies. And once you stop, then schools are going to fall apart, and your kid's going to become a ignoramus of the third magnitude, which is not true because, yes, teachers and good schools certainly have a part in this, but the large part, the people who never get credit are the parents. Just point to Little Miami School District where recently they passed a levy, and good for them, but for about 6, 7, 8 years they didn't, and the schools still remain excellent. So there's some ammo for you. But one of the guys who's been fighting this for a long time in Lakota is Rich Hoffman on his Overman Warrior blog. And for many years he's been needless to say, a thorn in the side of the pro-levy people. And he is the head of a group called No Lakota. He's making headlines this morning for comments that he made and posted on his blog, which I have linked up. If you want to see them for yourself, you can go to my Facebook wall at Scott Sloan, and I have a link to the story there as well. The comments being called sexist, misogynistic, and a whole bunch of other things. Let me read the comments to you, and I will stress if you have kids in the car, maybe you want to turn this down because it is a little salacious. Anyway, here we go. This is what he says on his blog. Lakota school mothers are, quote, just prostitutes to their husbands who do everything they can do to be away from them aside from the occasional sex. Their husbands roll over them on them at night and insert their manhood into these women of the bedroom, and $100 bills find their way into their purses. The women don't know what the man does to earn money, nor do they care. They're busy saving the world one child at a time with howls of safety and more regulations as they rush to the polling places at election time. End quote. This from Rich Hoffman's blog. He joins us now on 700 WLW to talk about that and many other things. Rich, good morning.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day.
It is a nice day. Let me ask you, I just read the comments as you heard. In one fell swoop, you just PO'd every single woman listening. Let me ask you, Rich Hoffman, do you still stand by those comments, and if so, why?
Yeah, I do. I didn't mean to include every single Lakota mom, but it's a specific group that tends to blindly follow levies. And my posting there was to try and explore in some rational way how in the world they could justify the constant pursuit of levies, even when we've spent 3 of these elections fighting them, and it never stops. And I was at a particular school board meeting 2-3 weeks ago, about the time that I posted those comments, and I was so sick by the whole experience because you're seeing your school get dismantled, and you're watching this process go on, and then you realize that the school board is only dealing with 20% of their cost. That 80% that we've always talked about isn't even being touched. And then a parade of parents, mothers, concerned mothers, believing in what they believe, goes up and says, can you please reach out to the other side and get them to pass this levy? Can you do something to make it better so they'll agree and so we can get the votes? And that is the only thing that comes. So I was really mad, really frustrated, and then they certainly thrown a lot of comments in my direction. You're a kid-hating person, and everything you do is salacious and evil. And it's a little bit of banter going back and forth, and you should have known with my high profile that they're going to use that against me. But there's also a part of me that thought, you know what? Let me push the buttons a little bit and see who my enemies really are. See how this thing works. Okay, well, here's the problem with this. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree. Here, let me tell you why. Because you've now basically taken a baseball bat to the hornet's nest. You presented in the past, Rich. I've had you on. I know you've been on all other shows too, in your voice of some will say insanity, many others will still say a little bit of reason. And I think with anything there needs to be balance in life. But presenting in the past unimpeachable fact when arguing against levies. Right. But here's the problem, though: by resorting to widespread personal attacks, and that's what this is, you've undermined your credibility as an activist. You just painted yourself as mentally unstable. Don't you think that those comments that you're still standing by are going to hurt you and hurt anyone who thinks, hey, maybe we are paying too much here in Lakota? Well, I've tried it. I've done all the logical stuff. We've tried to paint the thing in as correct way as you can possibly do it. And yet you find that there's always these emotional arguments that come back at you, and nothing you do can stop it. And there's a part of me that says, you know what, if they're going to apply it towards us, why not throw it back at them? And
let me ask you, let me interrupt though. What publicly, because your blog, I mean, you're the head of the No Lakota mission, the anti-levy campaigners in Lakota, and you on that blog that you used for that now have thrown out there highly incendiary comments that they're certainly going to use against you. And what public forum and fashion, like in mailers or anything else, has your opposition done to say the same things about you? Other than, because I would say that posting on blogs and chat rooms are much different than what you did.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get emails from them, and the banter goes back and forth, and emails are public as well. When you answer something on a blog, you're answering sometimes 50, 60 different people who've all sent you something nasty or have said something nasty to you, and it gets back to you, and it gets personal.
But that's not the way it comes off. It comes as you hate women with kids. It comes off as you disliking women and calling mothers, and I wouldn't just say Lakota parents, Rich Hoffman, but when women in Mason and Westchester and in the city of Cincinnati, women who've had kids in school or have kids in school read that, they think you're talking about them.
Yeah, well, I'm not, and it's painted in a way that I'm so insensitive to the whole thing that I'm so used to being told that I hate kids, and I don't think a lot of these people were on my side to begin with.
Right.
And people who know me and people who have worked with me, and a lot of people, I don't think a lot of the no votes are they all know what I'm about. I'm actually trying to go for some yes votes here. And sometimes when you pick a fight with somebody and you get out in the parking lot and you knock it around, you become friends. And I'll tell you, since Saturday, when I posted this, there's a few people that called, posted and contacted me, and we bantered back and forth and found out there's more in common. And then we actually had some rational conversations. And I was kind of hoping that, by getting it out on the table and getting the 800-pound elephant out so we can all talk about it, that there can actually be some reasonable discussion. But I'm tired of getting it's thrown in one way, and then when you throw it back at them, then they scream for mercy.
Yeah, but here's the problem. If you're going to insert yourself and make yourself a public figure, which you are, Rich Hoffman, let me put it this way. You don't think that people like Barack Obama hear that all the time? Or even on a much, much, much smaller scale, myself, I mean, I get hate email all the time telling me things I said that I didn't and who I think I am and a whole bit. But you can't result in personal attacks. Otherwise, if you're just going to deal with fact and what your take and what your goals are, it's going to undermine your mission. Same with you as it happened with Rush Limbaugh, for example.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And Rush had the same thing, and I actually think this is where I put these comments up weeks ago, and I think it's the Rush Limbaugh thing that actually triggered them to say, hey, let's do the same thing to Rich Hoffman. And, because we tried to do something really nice last week, and we got some great press for it. It's a great program, and I've seen more anger as a result of us trying to do something nice for kids than I've seen in the last 3 levies. And then within a couple of days of that, then this whole thing came out.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute here. The Yes to Lakota Kids, a group you started, you gave seed money, $10,000 to help students pay for extracurricular activities that were cut out during the last 3 budget no's or levy no's there in Lakota. Patty Alderson, I think that's the woman's name. She's a chair of this foundation that also is involved with this, and she publicly came out and said, we don't want any affiliation with Rich Hoffman because of these comments.
Well, that was all done well before any of this happened. We a lot of the people in the No Lakota levy wanted to do something positive, and you get in a situation where you want to show that you're not just anti-school, anti-levy, anti-kids, and then you get painted as being anti-kids. Well, you want to offset that by doing something good. And a lot of the people in No Lakota moved over, and we started this group called Yes to Lakota Kids. It was done by lots of folks, not just me. And it's a good thing. And the intention was to bring the community together. And we reached across the aisle to do that. And what you find out is a lot of these folks, they want to keep the fires brewing. They don't want to reach across the aisle. They don't want peace with us. They don't want to bring the community together. They want only one thing, and that's to pass a levy. And no matter what gets in the way of that, they will do everything they can to stop it.
But now, by standing by these comments, Rich Hoffman, that you realize now that this good deed that you did is going to go unrewarded simply because of the negative. So again, I got to ask you: why would you continue to stick by these incendiary comments if you want to bring people together and help kids?
Well, you take responsibility for the things you say, and I got to apologize to all the mothers of Lakota, but I think that seems kind of cheap. And if you say it, you better stand by it, and go forward from there and do your best to keep all that in consideration.
I gotcha. Let me ask you this too, Rich. Your relationship, are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a wife?
Well, I'm married.
What does your wife think about all this?
Oh, everybody knows me, they know what I'm about, and that's not. I'm certainly not a person that hates.
Well, they
women.
may know. Yeah, they may know what you're about. But when you put this on, and this reaction came back, and your wife read these comments, what did she say to you? Because I know what my wife would say to me, and it wouldn't be good.
She just shook her head because they have been at this for a long time, and she's seen a lot of ugliness. Believe me, this isn't the worst of it. This is just the most public part of it. I mean, this is a public forum that we're talking about this, but there's been a lot of things that went on behind the scenes. It's been private. It's been equally destructive, and if I seem a little callous to it, that's why.
Let me read another quote here for those not familiar with the blog. Rich Hoffman is anti-tax advocate in Lakota, is the No Lakota guy, posting some incendiary comments on his blog. It's getting negative reaction, obviously. One of the other things said here, too, is quote, even with the overwhelming proof I've provided the crazy PTA moms and their minions of latte-drinking despots with diamond rings the size of car tires and asses to match, they plot against me with an anger only estrogen can produce. That sounds a little bit like a black helicopter shadow conspiracy thing.
No, that's... it's not a conspiracy thing. It's just an observation.
You really think you think they're plotting against you, though, or are they just saying, "Hey, we hear what you're saying, but we just choose to err on the side of thinking, well, if we stop funding, what's going to happen with?" I mean, I get the reason why someone would vote yes for a levy. I think I think if you think about it and at least listen to some of the arguments you have made, Rich, that you would be a little bit more tempered, I think, and in just how passionate you are about voting for levies, because again, I'll point to Little Miami. They've been successful, and they recently passed a levy the first time, I think, since Jim Scott was in junior high. So that being said, eventually you get to the point where you can bang that drum, and if people aren't getting the message or not accepting it, that's about all you can do, though, right?
Well, that's where the frustration comes in, and I don't mean to talk about it being a conspiracy theory, but I'll tell you there is an organization, and they do get together, and if a business or a group of residents or a number of people, they find out vote no on a levy, they do organize to boycott those businesses, and they do organize to put pressure on them to vote a different way, and that's wrong. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about there, and there's evidence of that, and I know businesses that have closed that were targets of these boycotts, and I know a lot of people that were victims of this thing, and I'm telling you, it's nasty business.
Sure it is, because anytime there's money involved, it's nasty business. That's true in public money and in private money, too. There's a lot of nasty things that go on behind the scenes in politics, government, and in the private sector when you're talking about large sums of income in people's livelihoods. And you know what? When you're talking money, there should be probably. I get why people are emotional and passionate, because you're talking about income here.
Yeah, we wanted to see Lakota go for a 5% across the board wage reduction. Mm-hmm. It's just something that even presented to the union. And we were told the other night that it's not going to happen because it's illegal. The legal counsel said you can't do it. So all they can do is kind of nip around the 20% around the edge of the pie, and that's very frustrating. Yeah. Because then you have these massive groups of people who are yes voters who are going to work the next yes levy, and they're going to, no matter what, put the blinders on and push to make that system continue as it is, when it's a very simple fix, and we can still have all these things, but I'm telling you what's going to happen is when Lakota is down to bare nubs, nothing, the blame's going to come down on our organization. It's already been put up there as that in this fourth levy, that we're the cause of it. And I'm frustrated that we're getting painted that way just for trying to bring about.
Well, I think that here's one other thing too here, Rich Hoffman. I appreciate you joining us on the show this morning. Is that I think that you battle over school levies and the 20%. In the big picture, you mentioned the 800-pound gorilla. I'll give you the 1,200-pound or the 1,600-pound or the 2,000-pound gorilla, and that is the school funding model in Ohio. Yeah. And that needs to be addressed. We've had lawmakers now in their third or fourth term that promised when elected the first time to do something about this. The Supreme Court has ruled umpteen times that the model is broken, and yet nothing gets done. That is the real issue. I think that both you and the pro people can both agree on, right?
Right. That's exactly right. In fact, I have a letter right in front of me from a yes person, a pro person, that started a reasonable conversation with me as a result of all this. And she says, Rich, I need a step-by-step detail understanding of how concepts, not sweeping generalizations, painted with a broad brush. How exactly will voting a school levy down over and over again, dismantle the teachers union. And, that's what we're talking about here is how do you get to their belief is that if you say yes and say uncle, that they get what they want out of it.
Well, there's also
property
values. That's the key thing. It may not be because you believe that the schools are better with more money, but if you saw what happened in Little Miami. My wife's a realtor, and she was pretty PO'd at your comments, by the way, I'll add. But she's a realtor, and she sees what happens in Little Miami and other areas where they don't pass levies. Is it your property values of the tank? So how about this? Let me offer this out there. You were hot, you were irate. God knows we all from time to time get upset, say and do things we don't mean, especially the ones we want to help or love. Yeah. Why don't we do this? Why don't you extend an olive branch to the pro-levy people, apologize, and say, look, why don't we combine our forces? Those for and those against, and use those energies to go after the state and come up and force them to come up with a better plan for funding our schools so we don't have to delve into things like this. First of all, would you do that, Rich? And secondly, would you say, okay, I retract those statements. I was upset. I'm mad. I'm sorry. I recant what I said.
Oh, I absolutely would. That olive branch has always been out there to them. But the breakdown comes from how much money do you actually have to require from the state. We could all go up to the state and say, hey, give us more funding, fix the constitutional model, but then that comes back down to, well, how much should per pupil cost be? What it should, how do you determine that? And that is driven by that 80%. And as far as apologizing, sure, I'd be happy to apologize. I don't have any problem with that, but I get tired of being called a child hater.
Well, which you're not. I mean,
go both ways.
That's probably pretty cheap there anyway. But here's the thing: I know you're a right wing. I know you're kind of, and I don't mean that a bad way. Just that's your politic is, you're a Tea Party kind of guy. And here's the thing: I see as a guy who's kind of a proudly, I don't know. People accuse me of lying here, but independent in the sense is that. It's these kind of actions when you get emotional and throw these arguments. You would probably yourself and those who would support you, Rich, probably would point the finger at an occupier or certainly someone in San Francisco who straps themselves to a building with chains to protest corporate America. You're doing the same thing they are.
No,
sure you are.
No,
you're making an emotional argument rather than a factually based argument. You're the thing is this, and maybe you don't realize it, but let me point you out. Is that people may hear your argument and disagree with your argument. It doesn't mean that they're not hearing your argument, so you don't have to yell louder. And I think that's what you did here is you just tried to yell louder.
Yeah, I did yell. You do have that part right. And after that school board meeting that I went to, the second one of the big four board meetings they had where they announced each reduction, I came out of that very angry and very frustrated. I went there with thinking, oh, this is going to be, I'm not going to speak, I'm just going to listen. I hope that there's some good things happening here, and it greatly disappointed me. And then I saw how it was all going. It was really just a big show to put on a fourth levy, and then we were going to take the blame for everything that happened.
I got you. Rich Hoffman, again, overmanwarrior.blogspot.com. I got you linked up as always. If you want to go to my Facebook wall, you can read the comments and decide for yourself, and I'll get to some of those. And Rich, good luck with this. Hopefully you guys can bury the hatchet and move forward together as opposed to resorting to back and forth tactics that really don't help anyone out there in Lakota. So thanks again, man, and keep your head down.
All right.
Gotcha. All right, you heard the comments.